So my name is Brenden and I work for the City of Aurora. So I think it's really important for case managers, workers, officers, teachers, you be it, to really be patient and to not assume anything about anyone. Gender identity is fluid, so an LGBT individual may express themselves differently day to day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're confused or they're wrong or they're mentally unstable. Instead, try and realize that they're trying to figure out their gender identity too. There's no right or wrong way to understanding or expressing a gender identity. So instead, ask questions, but be respectful of what you ask. Just understand not everyone's going to be willing to disclose information or emotions that you might want them to at that time. Be accepting, but also educate yourself too. Everybody can learn something. Reach out to professional LGBT organizations to host career development trainings to help you be a better professional in your career and to link those connections with LGBT youth to make them feel safe in the system, to make them feel supported. So that's what I would suggest. We could really utilize our classrooms better for supporting LGBT youth by creating good role models and introducing gender-inclusive languages and behaviors at an earlier stage. Because most of the times what students learn in a classroom, or even professionals or faculty or officers in any sort of classroom environment, they'll take what they learn from those classrooms and transfer that into their everyday life. So if we can start in the classrooms and have that be a good model, I think that could really be beneficial in the long term for LGBT youth and strengthening their bonds and making them feel safer in different spaces. I think a way to achieve this is by, for example, using things in a classroom like gender-inclusive pronouns. Instead of calling off a name roster, have students introduce themselves, have them disclose what their pronouns they want to use. It kind of helps create a space. It helps students connect with other students, professionals connect with other professionals in a way that they feel comfortable and most well represented of who they are. But while classrooms are a great place to start, I think gay-straight alliances in schools are a great resource that are really often forgotten, especially in schools. And I think having GSAs and having judicial officials or officers or teachers or even parents be that liaison and advocate to have GSAs in high schools can be a great way for LGBT youth to support each other, to feel safe in their environments, and to learn from one another too. So I think if we could almost step it up a little bit as professionals and be advocates in spaces where LGBT youth already have to be every day, could be a really great resource and a tool to help them feel comfortable. I think having that go-to person, that one person that's really going to have your back, is super important. For me, it was my grandmother, and I can assure you if I didn't have her, I would not be alive today. I wouldn't be here to be able to teach and advocate and have my voice heard. She was and is my biggest support system in my life. And even though she didn't understand what my journey meant, what transgender was, or even what that signified, she was honest, she asked questions, and she did her homework. She tried to educate herself too. And her life lessons are pretty simple. Treat everybody with respect because everybody has a story. So I think it's really important, kind of as a big takeaway from today, is to get to know somebody before you start to make assumptions or judgments about who that person is, what they represent. You might be surprised, and they might surprise you in what you believe. So it would have been better if is just patience and finding that ally and doing your homework and just being accepting, not judgmental, and working through it together. You don't have to go through this alone, just like professionals don't have to go through it alone either. So many people ask me, when and how did you know you were transgender? Well, to be honest, I don't think gender's that straightforward. I didn't wake up one day and decide this is who I'm going to be. I think it's always been a part of who I am and who I was. The only difference is I didn't always know that transgender was actually a thing. That was half the battle, and I think a battle a lot of LGBT youth face. I didn't become transgender all overnight. It was a series of coming out in stages. At first, I identified as lesbian, but I didn't really feel that captured completely what I was feeling mentally or physically. And it wasn't until seeing counselors, doing my homework, going to health specialists, and finding information that I even found out what transgender was. But I can assure you, once I found out that it was a thing, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. I finally didn't feel alone. I felt like I had a community that I could turn to and I could go through this journey with. So now I've been on hormones for about 4 years, and I identified as a trans man for about 2 years before having my name legally changed. But that doesn't mean I'm finished. I don't think there's ever an end point to anybody's identity, especially with being trans. My journey, though, like many LGBT youth, has not always been easy. For a while, my mom and I didn't even talk. I regretted ever going home because it always ended up in some sort of an argument or a fight. And it was a space that I just really did not feel comfortable around. I had a lot of nasty things said to me by professors, old friends, strangers, family, and I think a lot of these comments just stemmed from lack of information, lack of not knowing, fear, and misguided advice from counselors that didn't get training that could have helped them better. And that's kind of why I'm here today, is to help put a human element to these topics, to show that we could all be better at becoming better interacting with LGBT youth. It's not a one-sided story. So if we all kind of pull our weight and we all build our support systems and do our homework, I think LGBT youth in the long run could really find better support with themselves. I wasn't actually involved in the criminal system, but I've gone through lots of, harassment from police, from officers, from bus providers, from you name it, a lot of security, TSA. I've almost gotten, not able to board a plane because my gender identity didn't match what was on my ID. So they wouldn't let me through. I've had to show my court documents many times just for basic things, to get on a bus, to be able to use the bathroom, so things like that. So while I wasn't, ever incarcerated or gone through a judicial system, there's definitely been hardships, again, just from, I think, lack of knowing or lack of really understanding how to interact with, LGBT identified individuals. So the best advice I can give for LGBT youth in the system is really to find your go-to person who's going to stand by your side, who's going to help you with your journey, someone that you can lean on, someone that you can really trust, and someone that's going to have your back, that will listen and not judge you. I think that's really important. I think it's important too to build a relationship with that person, and it doesn't even have to be someone that identifies the same way as you. Sometimes it's better if that's not the case, because you can learn from somebody else and they can learn from you too, and you kind of work through different things together and you get to understand different perspectives, and it really helps to strengthen a bond and make the system better. It makes other interactions and other activities better for youth in the long run. So that would be my best advice and idea, is to find that ally.